Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, Kelly. Hello, Meme. Hello, Jeremiah. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, I'm trying to get my video out on TikTok and I just... things. Hey, Jelly. Good morning. How are you, friend? Job numbers are in? Oh, gosh. And what are those like? I haven't... Unexpectedly declined? Unexpectedly? Who is that unexpected for? I expected it to decline. I'm surprised we only lost 23,000 jobs. Sure, the stock market isn't gonna... How is the stock market up? What the fuck? It just, every time it shows how off reality is to the stock market. Good morning, Linda. And hey, Aaron. Hey, Garpu. So are we invading to distract from job numbers? Maybe. We're paying a German firm $1.2 billion to stop their offshore wind project. What the hell? You know, what's $1.2 billion between friends? For those of you that may not have been paying attention, Victoria Broderick, who's been on my channel a lot, who's come on my lives and stuff, she won her primary yesterday. So... yeah, she actually won pretty strong. She won by like 10 points, which is pretty good. Our nation must have money trees by the way they're going through it. I know, right? And if you guys didn't see, a new what's the word I'm thinking? 2 new executive orders have come out from the president to try and limit birthright citizenship again. That was wild. Great. Wonderful. I don't know. Tough road ahead in this district, but she seems prepared. On to November. Yep. Yep. going to do what they're going to do because nobody's holding them accountable. Well, I mean, unfortunately, this is the reality of the world we live in, i.e., they try and pass things, it gets taken down by the courts, and then they try something else. I mean, again, that's something every president has done. The fact that it's what he is trying to do specifically, which is just wild to me, like preventing pregnant women from coming in to this country, from getting visas to come into this country, or from just coming into this country at all, for fear that they will give birth. I don't even know what to say about that. Good morning, Jamie. How are you doing? Oh, I understand they won't last. It's just so exhausting. It's just exhausting at this point, you know? Hey, Yellowstone. You need some help? Happy it's Friday? Me too. Okay. The net effect of these orders and everything does will be to drive Democratic turnout. That's possible. It's Friday, time for market manipulation. Yeah, I'm waiting for the thing to come out saying like that there are many border homes. Okay. Bunch of people who see the cruelty and love it. That's concerning. I mean, unfortunately, that didn't go away. You haven't, I don't understand what you're going for, Yellowstone. I'm not sure what you're asking here. It's sad that Friday is now recognized as market manipulation day. Help me in understanding the legality of a property like this, owning one. I don't, I'm not a lawyer, property law, or anything else. We just talk about what's going on in the world. Unfortunately, I would find a property lawyer. Unfortunately, even if I did know, not being a lawyer, I would not want to give you that kind of advice. I would disagree that it's above a property lawyer. That's literally their job, is to be able to get those answers if they don't know them offhand. Definitely a better place to go than a content creator who's not a lawyer in any way, shape, or form. You're still asking about the law, and I don't know. Trying to decide if I should keep healthcare as a human right on TikTok, because it's probably will make me pissed off. I hear you, but this is not the place for that. Sorry. That is something I cannot help you with. Yes. Yes, Garpu, it was. Thank you for the follow. Well, I go live every weekday, Yellowstone, so. But yeah, I just posted on TikTok about the interview with Jon Stewart and John Fetterman. Nobody smart, Aaron. Nobody with any brains does. People losing their minds over the video. Fetterman made some very, let's put it this way. After watching the video, I called him a bald Trump. In some ways, in many ways, it was the worst interview I have ever seen in my entire life, and that includes Trump. In terms of what he did, what he said. Jon Stewart was great. Jon Stewart asked, like, that was a masterclass in interviewing. Like, I'm gonna watch it just to learn from Jon Stewart. But Fetterman, holy crap, was he bad. It was wild how bad that man was. He should be Secretary of Satire, even though he wasn't satirical there. He shouldn't be a United States Senator anymore. Not because he deflected, that's normal for senators, but because he straight up said that his willingness to support or believe that someone should be able to hold government, his red line, yeah, is your support of Israel. That should not be anyone's red line who is a politician. That can be your red line as a voter, but as a politician, no. No, 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 no. What do you think the excuses are going to be on the 23K job loss in this month's job numbers? Because that's what I'm putting on over on TikTok. You think fraud is going to be the response? Fraud could be it. Lies. They could just say it's lies. They like doing that one. It's just a lie, man. It's all lies. Kids don't want to work these days. Yep, that's a possibility too. That's a distinct possibility. I could see that one. It's Democrats' fault, obviously. Yep. Obama's fault? Do you think we'll get an Obama's fault? I could see us getting an Obama's fault. No offense, but I have no sympathy for the Fed. Especially their head of the Fed. I know a lot of economists are trying to be like, oh, he's actually a really smart guy. No, he's a piece of shit. Well, and job numbers has nothing to do with the problem with things like job numbers is those are reality. Like you can't manipulate job numbers in the same way. He's too predictable now. It's true. That's more than likely. Well, get an Obama's fault. I'm gonna laugh really hard if we get an Obama's. It's an Obama's fault. Ugh. I will laugh so hard if we get an it's Obama's fault. Morning, Kevin. Someone's chainsawing wood out there. All they have to do is go down to the mall and start filling out applications. My mom loved to give me that one. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I just saw a video with someone talking about how they, like how impossible it is to get people to work, Americans to work in service jobs right now. And again, is it straight up because people don't want to work service jobs? Maybe some of them. Partially because we as Americans don't treat service workers very well, companies and people. But more than that, they don't pay enough. Secretary Tower sounds like something from Monty Python's Ministry of Silly Walks. It does. How you doing, Low Gardner? I'm doing good. I'm glad it's Friday. Morning, Courtney. What's on the discussion cards for today? We're talking about job numbers. The new job numbers just came out. We've been talking about the Jon Stewart, John Fetterman. We're talking about the Jon Stewart, John Fetterman interview on his podcast a little bit. Obviously, we've talking a little bit about Trump trying to limit birthright citizenship again. Good morning, Lori. Good morning, OC. Those are the main ones, but I'm sure there'll be other things, obviously. It's going to be those three. Saw the job report, not good. Not a surprise either. It's not a surprise. We already knew that the reason some of those job numbers were as good as they were was because of June was because of the World Cup. We knew because the job numbers don't care about whether they're permanent jobs or seasonal jobs or temporary jobs or whatever. Well, I'm British and I'm limited in how much I can, and I feel I should comment on this. Honestly, Low Gardner, I think I can't speak for everyone, but I always appreciate other perspectives on what you see and what you guys are experiencing and seeing about what's going on in other countries. Because I think a lot of Americans, especially MAGA and people on the right, don't realize what other countries are experiencing. Or seeing. And we can talk about Britain too. JP Morgan is going to be trying to offload their single family home portfolios too, maybe. US won't work until the workers own the means of production. I don't know about that. There just aren't jobs. Hey, Maureen, thank you. Yep. I need to go visit Scotland. My Scottish blood is calling me to go visit Scotland. AI won't replace as much as we think it will. Do we have a breakdown which industries did worse than others? Probably. I'm going to guess it's hospitality, though. Oh, and May and June payrolls revised down over 100,000. Unemployment rate dropped from 4.1 to 4.2. Yeah, it looks like government, leisure, hospitality, retail, and financial activities. I don't know what that means. Are we great? I know, right? So much winning. I'm hearing a lot of legit unemployment claims are being denied, so those numbers drop. Also true. Well, that also means he's been wrong 14% of the time. I guess we'll find out. Well, without regulation, that's true, Tuna Bear. Yep. Regulation is necessary. Under any ism. Imagine being a grown-ass man and sitting here on as a commenter on a TikTok live. That's a funny way to say you're jealous, dog. Funny way to say you're jealous. When they have an idea that can exist in the real world. Regulation is necessary, and complain there are no jobs. I'm not complaining there are no jobs. I'm pointing out the reality that there are no jobs. At least no good paying jobs. That's just a reality. It's not a complaint. Yeah, regulation is necessary for any model. Strong regulation is necessary. Nope, there are not plenty of jobs. The fact that you believe that literally is not shown by the reality of the world we live in. It doesn't matter what are those jobs and how well do they pay. Yep. You know nothing. Because everything you're saying is false based on the actual data that's out there. Any co-panelists today? Yeah, they'll come up in a bit, Low Gardner. Again, you can say it all you want, dog. But like, there's data. Pandering to weak-minded people. Who's pandering to weak-minded people? We need to reenact FDR's plan to rescue the real people. You know, I think something similar to the New Deal would be good. How am I pandering? How do you believe I'm pandering? Oh. Jealous? You're jealous. You're jealous when you go live, you only get 2 people watching you. I know. I get it. I feel you. Must hurt. The SAVE Act is unconstitutional. Who is a socialist? Me? I'm not a socialist. I know, it's so nice of these people to boost my live. Yeah, Christopher, that's said by someone that can't get followers online. How? It's not like it is a poll tax. You look at the language, the full language of the SAVE Act, it is a poll tax. There's 80 people in here. You're right. There is 80 people in here. Congratulations. place that some people can read.
Well, good morning, Mike.
They're starting off strong. Didn't even hit the 15-minute mark yet.
I know this is that I knew there was a reason that you called me up early. The crazies are out in force. You know, not only did we lose 23,000 jobs this month, the underreported figure is that they revised last month's figures downward
Over
103,000 jobs.
Yep.
So we lost 23,000 this month. They just revised last month down 103,000 jobs. And by the way, for comparison, Joe Biden's last year in office, he added 2.23 million jobs.
Yeah. It's that Friday energy. It might be. I consider myself a libertarian, so I'm hated by everyone. I mean, again, look, I have strong disagreements with anybody who considers themselves conservative, because in general, what you guys believe in, not everyone, but obviously in general, the perspective you guys believe in tend to hurt other people. But I have no issue considering bits and pieces of each of the perspectives, because there's not always something just completely wrong with everything you believe in. So what policy do I like? I mean, I don't like a specific, I don't like a specific party's policy. I don't align with any party. What policies do I like? Ones that emphasize humanity and empathy. The idea that all people, what am I? I'm a human. I'm an American. I stand with people. What do I vote for? Vote for someone that believes that all people, no matter your race, religion, gender, or identity, deserve rights, respect, dignity, and safety. Again, I don't care. It all depends. Would I vote for Bernie or AOC? Yeah, if they were a choice, but it would also depend on who the other choices are. I literally, you get a certain number of people running. There's certain realities in this country. In the primaries, you vote for who you want, what direction you want the country to go. In the general election, you get a choice of two, especially in the presidential election. But in most of them, you still only get a choice of two. And at that point, it's whichever person aligns with my fundamentals. If they both happen to, whichever one is closest to where I want the country to go. That's it. It's pretty easy. I don't care what letter. I don't care what letter's next to your name. I don't give a rat's ass about any of that. I don't. You hear our House is trying to make changes to our elections here in North Carolina. Oh yeah, Jelly. I know. Shocker. Color me shocked. What's up, Cody? It would depend who the choices are. I know a lot of people like talking about who they would want in it. I don't. We have the midterms to worry about right now. That is literally my focus, and then it will depend on who runs. And I'll look at all of them, and whoever is best, that's who I'll go for. Whoever aligns closest to my fundamentals and where I want the country to go. Why can't they make voting digital? I think they should. I think they should. Why can't they? Because they don't want to put the work in. Because there's an obsession with this idea of fraud right now. So I like El Sayed in Michigan. I liked him compared to the other choices. Were you a Graham Plattner guy? Until I found out that he was a grapist. Yeah. I mean, liked him. I didn't really like him. I liked him more than whatever her name is, the Republican. I didn't want to say her name. Goes out of my head. Susan Collins, thank you. But once I found out he was a rapist, no, I wanted him out. So it's just you taking the worst of two evils. That's how a two-party system works. That's literally called a two-party system. You want to fix that? You need to get rid of the two-party system. You want to get rid of the two-party system? You need to have a constitutional amendment. That's just the reality of it. All lies, use your brain, American. What is a lie?
Apparently, everything's a lie, Mike.
Very confrontational. Who's very confrontational? I'm answering your question. If you think this is confrontational, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is called having a talk. AI takeover will force UBI. I can't guarantee that it will force UBI. In this economy, I don't think it would force UBI. I think it would cause a lot of people to lose their life because of the greed of the people at the top. Could I see a future where AI doing certain jobs could cause a UBI or could cause a situation where people don't have to work as much? Yeah, I could see that. I don't. In this current system, that would not work.
You know, Sissy in chat brings up that Andy Ogles lost last night, and boy, that was delicious to see him go down. That was delicious.
Do you feel American politics, in particular parties, are now inescapably bipartisan two-party? Inescapable? Not likely to change. It all depends on the voters. It really does. If we keep voting in status quo people, yes, I foresee it staying two-party bipartisan like it is. There are a lot of people that are running every single election that want to do things differently. So it'll really depend on us, especially getting out to and voting in the primaries. Even in Tennessee, it was only about 20-25% of the state that got out and voted. As long as that keeps happening, we're going to keep dealing with. I mean, it was nice to see certain people that got through on the Democratic side get through, because some really good ones. Obviously, Victoria Broderick was a good one. What's his name? Justin Pearson, the current state representative, won his district. So there's some good ones.
Yeah, I was happy to see Victoria win last night. She's worked very hard and she deserved the win.
And it was a good win too, like 10-point
It
win.
sure was. Yeah, she won by about 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was 10 points.
And I mean, she's got a rough road ahead. It's a very, very deep red district, but it's a strange year, and she's got name recognition now. This is her second run, Mike. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, it's her second run, so she's got plenty of name recognition, and you have a lot of dissatisfaction in rural areas right now. So she's got a shot. It's a difficult shot. She's not a favorite, but we'll see what can happen in a deep red district.
I mean, and that's really what it comes down to. And I hate to say it because I know, especially you are a numbers guy, Scott. I think the best thing that could happen for our political system right now is that even if it only happens in a couple districts, that what people think is going to happen, like what the numbers say, what the polls say, whatever, are completely wrong. I think that's the best thing that could happen in this country right now. Not because I don't want us to have numbers that we can look at to decide, to pay attention to and learn and try and figure out what's going on, but because we're so many people are focused on the numbers, especially in politics, the politicians, that it's preventing them from getting out of that box that they're stuck in.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I certainly wouldn't disagree with it. Just so people know, numbers that you see in primaries, polling numbers in primaries, always take them with a little bit of caution, folks. They're often wrong. The numbers are a lot better for the general election in November than they are for primaries. Now, why is that? Because you can't really predict who's going to turn out. And turnout is so low in primaries that a shift either way can blow the poll completely out of the water. So don't be hung up on polling in primaries, because a lot of times it can be wrong. We saw it in Michigan. El Said was favored to win by anywhere from 12 to 19 points, and he won by less than one.
Mhm.
That's a big miss on the polling. But that's because they didn't have a good prediction of who would actually show up. And when you only have 15 to 20% of people showing up, a shift of 3 or 4 points is going to blow the poll completely out of the water.
I mean, and there's other things. Again, obviously we know Republicans tend to vote for Republicans, but this is just we're in a different year. To say that things are exactly like they've always been right now would be a lie. So it is possible that someone that voted in the primaries for someone who is farther down the ticket on the Republican side won't like the person who won and would consider voting on the Democratic ticket. I know that has been abnormal as of late, but again, we're just in a different world right now.
Yeah, we're through the looking glass right now, and I also agree with you on that, which is why you have to take things with a grain of salt even heading into November, because a lot of the old rules are not going to apply. And where do I think we're going to see some surprises in November? I know this is no surprise to you, Mike, because we've talked about it off air. I think you're going to see surprises in rural and ex-urban America.
Yep.
They're undergoing a crisis. A lot of us who live in urban areas or suburban areas don't realize it, because our life just goes on and we just keep going about our day-to-day business. Things are really different in rural and ex-urban America, and please do not underestimate how bad those Medicaid cuts are going to affect the vote in November.
Yes.
And they're going to hit rural America particularly hard, and you're going to have a lot of upset people. And when you have upset people, you get strange election results.
And again, another thing that we shouldn't forget is, I know that there's a lot of people on the left that are like more center are sitting here and worried about, for whatever reason, are frustrated and worried about DSA people running. I think the fact that some DSA people are winning are going to end up, we'll see how many, but I think it's going to excite people, at least on the somewhat farther left, to get out and vote in a way that they didn't before.
That's certainly possible. And you know what? A little bit of creative tension within your own party is not necessarily a bad thing.
Also true. Except when you get Fetterman coming on the Stewart. I watched that last night and I wanted to punch my screen. I did not think anyone could give a worse interview than a current president of the United States. But he did it. That was inept. I've never seen any politician be that bad in an interview.
He's God, he's just such an odd duck. He Yeah, look, he hates being a United States senator. He doesn't show up to work very often. Why doesn't he just resign, for Christ's sake?
I
Yeah,
no.
just resign. You
Resign
don't
and
even like the job. You don't show up. You don't work. You don't do constituent services. You do nothing for the people of Pennsylvania. Just resign if you hate it so
resign
much.
and move to the I country, because that seems to be where you would rather be.
It sure does. That he's well. Look, mistakes happen, and everybody got all excited about John Fetterman, and you know, sort of like with Graham Plattner, I was warning about him. I tried to warn about Fetterman because I thought Connor Lamb was a much, much better candidate, and nope, we had to go with Fetterman because he wore a hoodie. Okay, well, this is what you got.
Yeah, South Dakota is interesting. The guy who I interviewed, who literally messaged me about doing an interview like a couple days after that, dropped out too. So I guess they're putting their hopes in the independent in South Dakota now too.
Yeah, in Idaho, I believe as well.
Idaho.
Whereas Montana, both candidates, at least they got 3 more days.
Yep.
But it appears that both candidates are going to stay in, and we'll have to see what happens. But in other states like Nebraska, Idaho, and South Dakota, they've made way for the independent candidate.
What I'll be interested to see is if all the independent candidates lose, what the reaction will be. I'm saying this with the very straight up, I hope they don't all lose. But Democrats are putting no money, no anything into it and into their own party, and putting all of their hopes and dreams on an independent candidate who it's not necessary. It's not necessary. All the Democrats have to do is actually put time and money into those states, and they could flip the script, but they just don't want to because for some reason they've decided it's hopeless.
Here's the problem that I have with that. Democrats are constantly screaming, justifiably so, that we have to compete everywhere, that we can't just pick and choose where we compete, that is the road to perdition. That is the road that led us to losing the House, losing the Senate, and losing the White House. We have to compete everywhere. And yet, when a new shiny object like an independent comes along, the same Democrats who encourage people to run in a state like Montana, Idaho, and South Dakota pull the rug out from under their own candidate. Mm-hmm. Now, how the hell is that going to build a political party? Mm-hmm. How's that going to accomplish that? Now, with one exception, and that being Nebraska, I think that's poor, which is why I'm very happy that Bankhead is hanging in there in Montana. Screw them. Now, why do I say that Nebraska is different? Because Osborne has a track record. Osborne damn near won last time. He is a proven statewide vote getter. So in that, it's a case-by-case analysis. In that one instance alone, I can see it. But in Idaho, South Dakota, Montana, screw that. You're talking about building the party. Well, then, damn it, build the party.
Mm-hmm. And let's be fair. As much as I'm okay with, with Nebraska, he's Osborne, whatever his name is, has run multiple times. But also, what I'm not okay with is the knowledge that the person who ran under the Democratic ticket ran with the knowledge that they with the expectation to just drop out after. They didn't actually run to run. And again, I understand, but also you just threw away every vote for every person. You basically told everyone who's supporting your party right now that you don't really care about who they want to run. You've made the decision for them. There's a reason that people are sitting here going, I think I know why You know, this is why my vote doesn't matter. Like I understand. I mean, I already understood, but it's like more and more I understand why people think that way, because this party, both parties do it. So don't pretend it's just one side. But right now, because a lot of the people that I'm supporting, all of them right now, are on the Democratic ticket, it just feels like shit for people. What's up, Cody?
Oh, just healing from an appendectomy. So,
Oh, fun.
yeah, all the fun stuff. But I was just gonna say, like, isn't the DNC also like broke right now? They had to put their headquarters up as collateral.
So yeah, but
That doesn't mean
yeah,
anything, though, Cody. That's meaningless.
it's been basically been shown that instead of throwing party to the DNC like Republicans are doing with the RNC, they've been sending it to actual candidates. The raising from Democratic candidates is through the roof. They're just not sending it to the DNC.
Yeah, the Democrats are swamping the Republicans and spending in all the Senate races in particular. I haven't looked at all 435 Republicans, with the exception of Maine and Michigan. The fundraising for the Democrats has been tremendous. Roy Cooper, Tallarico, Sherrod Brown, Mary Peltola. They're just floating in money. They're going to have enough money to do anything they want.
Oh yeah, and I know that the individual contributions are great for each candidate. I'm talking about the national committee actually doing some kind of party building and campaign strategy from a national perspective.
The PAC money runs elections now anyway. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Cody. But, there's a tendency, especially on social media, to just use the phrases RNC, DNC, RNC, DNC. The party organizations in this country have been weak since 1968 in the Republican Party and 1972 in the Democratic Party. The real power lies in the candidate organizations, not the political party.
I do find it interesting, though, that the individual candidates, like Scott, would you say that this is kind of unprecedented in the country's history, where the individual candidates are raising so much money, whereas the party apparatus is not?
Yeah, well, as I was trying to say, the hold of the political parties on their party in '68, Nixon wiped that out for the Republicans, and in '72, McGovern wiped it out for the Democrats. They just don't. They're basically scheduling organizations, is what they are. The real political power and the real secrets. That's why the Watergate break-in was laughable. The Democratic National Committee didn't have any secrets in there. They're just the people who set up the primaries now.
Well,
Candidate organizations, and really the dark money is where it's at now. And Cody, to specifically answer your question, no, this is totally unprecedented. What we're seeing now, the huge amounts of money flooding into politics. And the scary part about it is the reported numbers aren't the real numbers, because dark money doesn't have to be reported. So God only knows how much money is really flowing into the system.
I mean, also, a lot of the money even going to other candidates from like specific organizations is more from like what is it, that PAC, the Senate, there's a PAC that what's his face, the leader of the Senate, the minority leader. No, the minority leader.
Oh, the minority leader, Chuck Schumer.
Schumer, I know Schumer runs money in some PAC that's not technically the DNC. It's a separate PAC that he can throw money into other candidates with.
Yeah, but Cody's point is still valid. I would like to see some money for both organizations, frankly, RNC and DNC, for party building exercises, because the national party is better at doing that than individual candidate organizations, which obviously are focused on their individual candidate. So would I like to see that in a perfect world? Yes, but we haven't seen that in a long time.
And unfortunately, the new head of the DNC did not bring much trust in the national organization when he said he was going to put out his thing about what happened, why, what caused us to lose the election. And then we also found out that he kept out some of the pages in what he released in that report. So there's literally no trust in the federal national apparatus.
Nor should they be with this guy. He's shown himself to be disingenuous. Here's what I don't get, and I haven't gotten for a long time. What should be a role of a DNC or an RNC is to get new people into the party. I don't think that is a earth-pounding thing to say. That's pretty much job one would think. Well, who on the Democratic side has done a better job of a proven person who gets people registered than Stacey Abrams? And she's not doing anything. Why isn't Stacey Abrams the head of the DNC? And I've been saying that for years. Because she has a track record of getting people signed up to vote. There's a reason Georgia's a purple state right now. Well, there's a lot of reasons. But one of them is Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you need those interests aligned. And I don't think that the head of the DNC would like Stacey Abrams and people like her in charge.
I'm saying Stacey Abrams should be the head of the DNC, not this idiot.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like the head of the DNC and its committees and the power structure there would need to actually accept Stacey Abrams and her policies.
Yeah, well, just take a look at what they did to Hogue. They got him out of there.
I think the other thing that's interesting is that, yes, the money being raised by individual candidates is a lot, but it's actually to a detriment of candidates who don't take corporate money, which is why the DNC as a whole could be used to help out candidates like Abdul El-Sayed and all these other DSA candidates, because they don't take that kind of money. And so you need a national apparatus with boatloads of money that can go on top of the individual donations that these candidates do get to kind of help outweigh the money that someone like Mike Rogers is going to get in Michigan.
Mike Rogers he's already gotten $45 million, which is an all-time record for a non-incumbent person running for the Senate on the Republican side. Yeah. In a perfect world, Cody, absolutely. And absolutely agree with you.
Vince, I don't, Michigan is not being turned into a Khalifa. Daily Wire has no credibility whatsoever in this live or in this community. They're just fear mongering. Everyone that is sitting here freaking out about Muslims in Michigan are just fear mongering. Sorry, they are. Marsha Blackburn won her primary. That wasn't a surprise, unfortunately. She didn't win it by as much as I thought she would, but
that's what jumped out at me, Mike. Marsha Blackburn was supposed to, get a gazillion % of the vote, and she didn't.
She only won by 10 points.
Yeah, that really surprised me.
Hey, God of Ping.
Now, I don't know what that means, but it really surprised me. That was an underperformance by Blackburn.
Which is why I was saying, and actually, even the person who got third place still got a really decent amount of votes too. Like, we're talking Marsha Blackburn got 311, John Rose got 235, Monty Fritz got 168,000. So like, it was near a 30-30-30 split. And that's not a very strong showing.
That's not what they expected either. Yeah, that jumped out at me. Ogle's losing jumped out at me. So this goes to the point, Mike, that you were making before and that I agree with. we're going to see some strange results in November. We're going to see some Democrats that we thought would win lose, but we're going to see a lot of strange results. And if I had to make a bet, I would bet that the strangest results are going to come out of rural America and ex-urban America.
Yep.
One of the things I'm actually excited to see, well, maybe not excited, but more intrigued, is for more progressive leaning Democrats, like is the party as a whole going to sit on their hands? I'm not saying they're going to actively sabotage or anything like that, but are they going to sit on their hands and not actively support or help out as much as they would if it was somebody who aligned with the Democratic leadership as much?
Are you talking about Michigan?
I'm talking about Michigan. I'm talking about New York. I'm talking about Colorado. I'm talking about all of the progressive candidates around, the
Well, the
whole entire
progressive
gambit.
candidates, with the exception of Michigan, have one and only one demographic: the wealthy, white, deep blue districts. They've yet to win in a swing district or yet to win in a red district.
I would even
So,
put Troy Jackson up there as well in Maine.
yeah, I think in terms of the Senate, that whether they like El Said or Troy Jackson or not, and they do like Troy Jackson, I'm not so sure how thrilled they are with Said, but they do like Troy Jackson. But either way, they're going to do what it takes because they want to take the Senate, and they can't afford to lose in either one of those two seats. They're going to have to take them both, and they still have a stiff hill to climb. But yeah, I think whatever problems they may have had with Al Said, they'll be papered over. And by the way, Al Said has made moves towards them as well. So I don't see that being a problem. I really don't. I don't think there's going to be some deep, dark conspiracy against Al Said. I think the Democrats will unite around him just fine.
I think we will see, like, oh, I'm so sorry, Mike.
No.
I just wanted to make one more point.
Yeah.
I am curious to see how much influence, like obviously we know that there's a ton of influence with money already, but I think in this particular race, a lot of the same money that was propping up somebody like a Haley Stevens is propping up Mike Rogers. And I'm curious how far that goes beyond just Haley Stevens to like other people within the Democratic establishment.
The Democrats are going to raise plenty of money, but El Said and in Maine also Troy Jackson they're both going to be outspent because the Republican Susan Collins is a money vacuum. I mean, she always has been. She just raises oodles of money.
And the only positive for Troy is a lot of Maine is just tired of Susan Collins.
A lot of Maine is just tired of Susan Collins and the national political environment.
Yep.
This is 2018 all over again, or maybe even worse.
Yep.
Because Trump's approval rating is lower than it was in 2018, and midterm elections are a referendum.
And we've got the new Medicaid cuts coming right before the election.
That's
too.
They'll come after the election.
Well, I mean the
notices.
The notices.
Yeah, if the notices are sent out as they should be sent out. Don't forget who controls the executive branch.
That's true.
If I were them, I wouldn't be sending out the notices. Let the people find out because they're too scared. That's going to be a bombshell. And I think people on Medicaid are already well aware of what's coming, and they're going to become more aware. I believe those notices are supposed to go out in September, and that's going to be horrific. And people are not focusing on how big a bombshell that's going to be.
So a couple things. Your politics have proven one leader on top is so dangerous and weakens your country. So we aren't designed to have one leader on top. Our Congress has abdicated their role in our government. So in the end, the problem is that we have one branch that's not doing their job. Not saying that it's still not dangerous. I think we need to change the way we do things here. But I do want to make sure that that's understood, that if you actually look at the way things are designed to work, it's not supposed to work like it's working. And it hasn't worked like this for a long, this is an extreme, and it's been heading this way. But what we're experiencing right now, where the president pretty much runs by executive order and doesn't get any real pushback from Congress, is somewhat unheard of to this, especially to this level. And the other thing I want to point out, Alvaro, the 20 million undocumented immigrants are not here illegally. They're not illegals. You need to stop with that, or you just won't be able to be here anymore. Congress is useless. Supreme Court compromise too. Supreme Court kind of did the same sort of thing in the sense of Supreme Court, as we've talked about here before, Supreme Court took power that they weren't designed to have, and they were just allowed to have it. Supreme Court is doing what it has done for a long time, which is interpret the Constitution. That is my problem with the Supreme Court, is that what we end up doing. It's why we talked about how there shouldn't be as many lawyers in there, because because we need to start writing some of these things much more plain language, much more straight up. And so it's harder for people to get around these things, and it's hard for it to be interpreted in a certain way. So that's a different problem. Why would we get rid of Supreme Court justice? I never said get rid of Supreme Court justices. I said Supreme Court Supreme Court took the ability to interpret the way it did. It was not designed to actually be that way.
You're talking about judicial review, Mike?
Yes.
That's Marbury versus Madison.
Yeah. And weren't you whining for free thingy? Oh, you're gone. I don't need. Whole Fauci. I mean, first off, Fauci was not in charge in 2020, and I don't see why you can't get that. Everything that has to do with what Fauci did was approved by, supported by, not only every other scientist, major respected scientists in the world, but by the president himself, who was Trump. The vaccine that you guys hate so much was created was the only reason it exists is because of Trump. This is all, like, you guys like to blame everyone else when the man that you support the most is the reason everything was as bad as it was. It wasn't because of Fauci.
This whole Fauci thing is just so fucking bizarre. And by the way, he's in deep trouble. Well, yeah, okay, we'll see.
Yeah,
he's not in deep trouble. Secondly, 6 years later, they're still, rambling on with these bizarre conspiracy theories. Oh, come on.
Did y'all see RFK's salmon on his cooking show?
Yes. His cooking
Did you see how gross that looked?
Yes, I did. Fauci is not in deep trouble. Again, there's two problems. Again, this shows how little people actually pay attention. Yes, RFK now has a cooking show, Low Gardner. It's dumb. Don't actually understand what happened. So, first off, what is supposed to happen is a lower committee, i.e. the committee that interviewed Fauci in the first place, votes whether or not to bring the contempt charges to the Senate, and then the Senate votes on whether to bring contempt charges against it. And what happened was the lower committee voted on it and just bypassed the full Senate and just gave it to the DOJ. So it's already on shaky ground for whether that's acceptable and allowed. It does not, them handing the contempt charges to the DOJ doesn't mean anything by its very nature. Literally anyone in those committees can vote on anything to hold contempt. That doesn't mean it actually holds water when the time comes. And if you actually listen to the arguments, am I an attorney? No, but Scott is. And we've had this conversation a lot.
Mike, let me explain this whole contempt thing so that people understand. There'll be a referral made to the Department of Justice, and they will decide whether to go ahead with a contempt. Now, let's say that they do decide to go ahead with that. Then you set up a clash of two differing legal theories. The Republican theory is this, that since Fauci had a pardon, that with a pardon, you lose your Fifth Amendment rights to talk about those issues. And that is generally considered true. However, there's very little case law on that. There's very little case law of people being given a pardon and then being asked to testify about those events. Theoretically, you have the Fifth Amendment so that you don't testify against yourself. A person cannot be compelled to testify against themselves. That's pretty much bedrock constitutional law, and that's something that you don't need to be a lawyer to understand. And the theory is this, that since he has a pardon, by definition, he can't testify against himself, therefore he must testify. And I tend to think there's a lot of truth to that. But this runs up against what Fauci's argument will be, I'm certain, in court, will be that I have that Fifth Amendment right, and since they were on a witch hunt, I couldn't be certain if they wouldn't charge me for new crimes that were related to things that I received a pardon for. Therefore, I chose to assert my Fifth Amendment privilege.
Well,
that will be Fauci's argument, and I believe he will prevail on that.
And the argument that they're also making add on to that is that there are states that are investigating him, and the pardon doesn't cover states. So if in this testimony states can use what they say, again, I don't know if that holds ground. I just know that I've heard that that's some of their argument.
He will assert that as well. And so it comes down to just how broad your Fifth Amendment privilege is, and just how broad the pardon power is. And the pardon power is broad to allow you to then to allow Congress to then force you to testify on issues you've received a pardon for, since you wouldn't be incriminating yourself, since you can't be charged in that. But that argument that Mike just made about the states will have a lot of validity too. And I think in the end, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution is going to come out on top on this, because the only real question is, did Fauci make a reasonable decision to assert his Fifth Amendment privilege? Was his fear of prosecution reasonable? And yeah, I think it was. Especially since the chairman of the committee has said consistently for 6 years that he wants to put Fauci in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sort of blows the committee's position as a searcher for truth right out of the water. Their very own chairman, Rand Paul, has said repeatedly that he wants Fauci in prison. Ergo, it was a rigged thing when he was called to testify, and that's what Fauci will claim. And I think he's got a lot of evidence to claim it.
Yep.
So let's just go down this crazy rabbit hole, Scott. If he were to ever get charged, or I guess put in front of a committee, and they're like, "Oh no, we want to put you in jail," where would that trial be held?
Most likely D.C., in the D.C. circuit, and I think they would make very short work of that, Cody. This would be another loss for the DOJ.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of this is just show pony stuff at the end of it all.
Bingo. That's all it is, Cody. That's all it is. I'm sorry, I should have started with that. Yes, this is a dog and pony show.
Vince, every congressman talking on the House floor tends to talk at least some level of BS.
Good morning, by the way, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. I want to circle back to some of what we were talking about, which um, does feed into the discussion with Fauci, is going back to people do not understand what the responsibilities of voting, how the responsibilities of voting are going to affect our rights to vote. And I think that's a huge thing that is missing in our society um, as a whole. And and because of that, we are putting in people into office, especially in the Congress as a whole, that are removing or advocating a lot of the responsibility and rights that we have as a country. And, I, but they turn around and do these, dog and pony shows. They won't follow the laws. So then we have an executive branch that is doing all EOs. We have a Congress that won't put laws out, and if they put a law out, they won't follow the law. They are weaponizing and trying to take over what were set up to be nonpartisan what's the word I'm looking for? Like the FCC and the DOJ and FDA and those all
Nonpartisan
Departments.
nonpartisan agencies of government.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going for. So and this has been an inch by inch issue. I mean, taking stuff out of history and civics out of schools, the ability for reading comprehension, some of how we get our information we need to adjust to, because we read headlines and not full. We read clickbait. So, I mean,
Yeah.
This is just some of the stuff that kind of, goes in my mind.
Yeah. Over on Twitch, Scott, they're asking, ultimately, what would sentencing look like if he was convicted?
Isn't contempt punishable by 5 years? I seem to remember that when somebody in the last administration was charged with contempt. It was a potential 5-year sentence. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at it, but I seem to hear the 5-year sentence thing thrown out all the time. Folks, I don't think Dr. Fauci is terribly worried, and you shouldn't be either.
Vince, I disagree. We should have more school choice. I think we don't fund school. We don't have an actual. The only bar that we have used for schools for so long is grades, as opposed to actually giving each school adequate funding to be able to teach well. We don't need school choice. We need better funding for all schools. School choice is one of the worst options, because all that does is remove funding from schools that need it, so they have no way of actually getting any better. Like, how does a school that loses funding because students decide to go somewhere else, how do they expect to get any better if they're losing money to be able to actually get better. Yeah, school choice makes public schools worse.
Because of some restructuring here in Florida. My wife no longer teaches, but the school that she was at, I think on average, the teachers are seeing a loss of about 20% of their pay, which is wild. And it's just because of how they structured their classes. It's like if you pick up extra classes or something like that, then you get paid more. But they took that option away. So now those teachers who would normally be okay with doing that and are willing to do that, they actually saw a decrease of about 20% in their pay.
Quite embarrassing if they take it
By the
so
way,
far.
Cody, I have a question for you. I've long since given up on the state of Florida, but I'm starting to get a little tingling feeling. I think the Democrats have some very strong candidates there. I wonder if there could be an upset in Florida. What are your thoughts?
I do think that there's potential here for change to happen. The problem is that I think the weight of, or the thumb of the government is going to be on the scale so much that it's going to be such an uphill battle. And then you kind of go down the road of like, are these Democrats who, are like who I like, Oliver Larkin, who isn't going to win his race, by the way. Like, it's very unlikely that he does. But, he's a DSA candidate and everything like that. And he's, very progressive. Or is it going to be like a Jared Moskowitz who describes himself as a DeSantis Democrat, right? So you gotta, like, yes, the Democrats might pick up seats, but they still might fall in line. And then also the gerrymandering here in the state has been pretty awful.
I was talking, though, in terms of the Senate and the governorship races.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's actually looking pretty nice. Just because I think that the people that the Republicans are putting up are increasingly unpopular because they can't actually put forth a policy proposal that helps the state.
Yeah.
And then the governorship is the same way. It's like it's a tale as old as time, right? It's like, you have people who are just saying like, oh, I'm supported by Donald Trump and DeSantis, but like they don't have an actual policy proposal outside of like the xenophobic and Islamophobic and racist stuff that they constantly push out. And then, the Democrats, as even though they might not be as progressive as I want, but they could actually say that they stand for something, and people are kind of gravitating towards that.
Yeah, and what's his name? David Jolie. Am I pronouncing his name correct?
Yes.
Correctly?
Yes.
Yeah. He seems to be a particularly good candidate. I mean, he's just seems like a solid candidate, leaving aside the issues for the moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So again, I'm not even counting on anything out of Florida in terms of the Senate or anything else. But we were talking about before a through line that we're talking about as we head into the now imminent midterms, is that you're going to see some surprises. And I'm wondering if one of those surprises just might be Florida. I'm not counting on it, but I'm not writing it off anymore either. I mean, there's just too much change happening, and DeSantis is becoming more unpopular by the day. So,
yeah. I think that in Florida in particular, I'm sorry, Mike, I know you were trying to say something.
You're right.
But I was going to say, at least in Florida, it's the affordability crisis is hitting us especially hard because we are so affected by climate change. That's a huge issue here. And so, housing prices are skyrocketing simply because of the housing insurance. And then also the need for and then obviously just private equity and all this other stuff buying up single family homes. But whenever you have climate change, these house insurance companies are saying, well, I mean, you're having really high intensity hurricanes and other weather events, so why would we stay here? So they flee the state. And then the ones that stay just jack up their prices. So it increases the affordability crisis even more.
And also those Affordable Care Act subsidy cuts affected Florida more than any other state.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and that is going to hurt. You hurt an awful lot of people, and most of them were Republicans, and you hurt the very people who would put you in office in 2024. And that, I think, is going to reverberate. The people forget the huge difference. 80% of all the subsidies for the ACA that were cut went to red states. They stabbed their own people in the back, and they're about to stab them again with the Medicaid cuts.
Blue states have the highest standards of education of all of the states in the country. They do not just pass people along. As someone who literally grew up in a blue state and now is in a red state, people that go live in a red state and tried to go to school in a blue state would lose their mind in the difference of the standards. No, they don't. I don't know who you got your information from, but it's literally a complete lie.
I will say that even in Florida, it's almost impossible to fail students. And so you'll have students who are, say, like they'll be in ninth grade, but they read at a third grade level and they're still passing. Like you'll have people who can't read by the time that they graduate and they still graduate because there's a bunch of different factors, right? Like obviously No Child Left Behind is one thing, but then also the fact that state funding is attached to test scores and then also graduation rates and pass rates. So if you have, say, only 80% of your students that are actually moving on to the next grade because that 20% is so far behind, you're not going to get as much funding. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place where it's like, oh, well, our students are dumb, but at the same, and it's not even their fault, but at the same time, we can't keep them back because otherwise we lose more funding.
Well, and one of the biggest differences that you will see between a blue state and a red state is people that are struggling are more likely to have access to special ed teachers and things like that to help on those kind of situations, where in red states they're less likely to have those unless you're lucky enough to be in a larger blue city in those red states.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up too real quick, and then I got to drop down, is that the services that are available, especially in elementary, but all the way through, for recognizing and supporting those students is much less in red areas. And, thus, and taking that out of the schools is perpetuating the problems going forward. There's a reason why they put, IEPs and such under the Department of Education, was to help support all of these kids that are in the system. So anyways, but I got to drop down, but thanks for having me up. And I know I have been kind of spicy and
you're fine,
preachy lately.
Good. It's all good. This is how conversations happen. No worries at all.
Somebody in chat brought up Ohio and said, what do you think about Ohio? I think Sherrod Brown is very well positioned. He's a very solid candidate. He has a history, obviously, of winning in the state of Ohio. And this is going to be a heavily Democratic year. You're going to see the vote share shift about 8 to 10 points towards the Democrats on a nationwide scale. And I think Sherrod Brown is well positioned in Ohio. I think he can win.
Sorry, I had a delivery that I had to. How about investing in vocational education? I think that we need to, as a whole, when it comes to education, encourage kids to figure out what they're good at and spend a lot more time helping them get the basics, the stuff that's necessary, like learning how to read well, learning how to do math enough for living, learning the necessities, but then figuring out what their strengths are and helping encourage that. That being said, the way we do vocational jobs, the way a lot of people in vocational jobs get treated, why would anyone want to do that? Like, again, some people, they just love it, and that's fine. But I've worked at literally every single kind of like branch of job that you can, sitting at a desk to installing R&D labs. R&D labs and doing that kind of work sucks. It's a wreck on your body, and the hours suck. Everything sucks about it. I'm sorry, it does. And I don't know why anyone would want to do those jobs. Again, I don't have an issue with people learning trades. I loved in school when we got to do metalworking and carpentry and home ec even. I think those kind of things are absolutely needed. But the reason they're needed is to give everyone the basics and find who needs a history of art degree. People that want to teach people about the history of art.
Also, I think that we're kind of approaching, yes, schooling is to help you become specialized. However, I think that primary and secondary educations are also there to create well-rounded citizens, which is why it's important to learn all these, gen eds that you would have, if you were to go into like high school or college, because it gives you a breadth of knowledge, so that you can have conversations with people in society outside of what your niche is, which I do think is important.
I think that comes from getting to a point where we need to get back to helping kids enjoy learning, because that's what it is for me. It wasn't because of a breadth of learning that made me enjoy and get to learn all of the things that I've gotten to learn and do. It's because I like learning new things. I just like to do it. And right now, we don't teach kids to enjoy learning. They don't enjoy learning, because all it is just throw a bunch of information at them, take a test on it, and then move on. And it's like, that's where we're screwing up. Like, school is not about enjoyment. That's one of the reasons places like Finland, their educational outcomes are so strong. And if you talk to them, they end up learning like 10 times more than the students here, because they allow them to enjoy learning. They start with, they obviously teach them basics, but they say, what do you enjoy? Like a kid who enjoys learning, like enjoys languages. They were talking to one kid who knows like 6 languages now because he enjoys doing it. He's not doing other things too, but the desire, the push to enjoy learning things, especially things that are fun for you, naturally gives you that desire to learn more after it. And that's where we're screwing up.
I'd like to follow up on Cody's comment. I couldn't agree more. The purpose of education, yes, it does have something to do with your career, but the real purpose of education is to get a well-formed mind. That helps you in every aspect of life. And that's the real purpose of what education is all about. It's not just a career track. So if somebody wants to take art history, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean, you look at the stuff I enjoy, I would have taken a ton of different kinds of courses if I had that. I'm not saying find what they're good in, don't let them take anything else. I'm saying encourage them on stuff that they like to do, because if they're good at it, chances are they like it. So let's not just sit here and say you need to do this and literally force them to the point of, you know, making them hate the class because they feel stupid, because they're struggling with it, because their test scores aren't good, whatever the case may be. That's more what I mean. The fact is if we can get them to a point where they enjoy learning, we can find out how they learn, and we can help teach them to the way that they learn, because I learn differently than most people. And if we don't change the way we do things like that, that's why we're getting kids that are, you know, not as educationally flexible as they used to be, because and again, this is watching a kid who, we got lucky. We also, you know, we stretched her and did things at home, but the school system, like, it was wretched. It was wretched. I just say that straight up. She, you know, she took a history course, and she actually likes learning. She loves reading. She loves learning. And the history course was like, it was the worst piece of shit possible, and she couldn't handle it. We're talking like a 99th percentile girl in everything, and she barely passed it because of how bad it was.
I think a big problem with our education system is that, like, two things. We teach to test, which is awful to begin with, right? It's like you just teach students enough to get them by on a test so that your school can get funding and all that kind of stuff. But then also we teach for a job. And that's the other thing. It's like we kind of instill in students very early on that, you know, like, for example, the person that just said, like, oh, well, what, you know, why would somebody get an art history degree? Well, I mean, you know, it's a valid question in today's economy and society, because we don't value those kinds of things as a society, unfortunately. And then, you know, it's always about, like, how much money can you make based off the education that you get? And so as a society, it kind of needs to change in order for us to really push students to do what they want, because what they want to do is not what they have to do to survive, unfortunately.
And who cares about standards? Who gets to decide what standards are? Like, the problem with the standard when it comes to education is there's an assumption that everyone is at the same level on everything. Jersey. And it's not vibing and having fun, it's teaching and making teaching fun. Because if learning isn't fun, they're not going to learn anything, which is why kids are struggling. So thanks for being part of the problem. No levels, just 5. Yeah, you don't need levels. Why do you need levels? I didn't say everyone passes.
In fact, Jersey, Cody was just talking about the problems with the Florida educational system passing people who are not qualified to pass. He didn't say everybody should pass. He's actually complaining about it. So,
Okay.
I firmly believe that our schooling system would actually be so much better if people were allowed to fail. And that people were able to be held back. Like, I'm saying, like, not that you, like, punish them, for example, but that you kind of reinforce that learning, and you help them, and you help understand the circumstances, right? But I think that, you know, the inability to hold people back puts them on a timer that you can never actually get enough learning or help them enough in enough time, which is the problem. Because then they kind of leave your purview after they are inefficiently learning, and then you can't help them after that.
I think we as a society would have to remove a lot of stigmas before we could do that. I agree with you. I want to make that clear. I actually agree with you in the sense of, I think if we removed the stigma of being held back meant you were somehow a lesser than, just like removing the stigma of, you know, there are certain levels of jobs out there where if you're working in you know, the food service industry, that you're somehow less than someone who is working in, you know, like a computer programmer or something like that. I think we need to get rid of that stigma when it comes to students and jobs, et cetera, before that could really work. Because I think in the current system, in the current way we do it, if we started holding people back, I think that is a problem that we have. I think that's one of the reasons we stopped doing it, because a lot of kids were being held back, and it was affecting them in many aspects.
By the way, Mike, a little bit off topic, but it's breaking news
Yep.
that Senator Cassidy, in a surprise to probably nobody, he caved, and he'll be voting for Todd Blanche. So that should clear it.
We knew
now.
we knew that was
Yeah,
happening.
we knew that. We knew that was
he made a
coming.
deal.
It's still disappointing.
Yep.
And in other words, the sky is blue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, water is wet. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, the racism, the sexism, all of that stuff becomes a huge deal for people that are held back. So while I hear you and I completely actually agree with you, I think we need to stop you know, putting people down because they learn slower, because they learn differently, because they just need more time in all of it at this moment. There's so we are so horrible to people that fail, quote unquote, or that don't exceed, or at least minimum even meet what is considered an expectation. And we need to get past that before we can start doing it the way it should be done.
Yeah, I guess, you know, my follow up to that is that I guess my caveat with what I was saying before is that all of that had already happened.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that makes sense, because that goes in the same statement that I go, that when I say all people should be required to vote, and when I always talk about caveats that need to happen in order to make that, to get to a point where we could do something like that. Who is we that we were so horrible? What old dream is gone? The dream of getting an education, getting a job, getting a house, having a family, white picket fence, all that other bullshit. That dream doesn't exist for the younger generation.
Scott, is there any other holdouts for Blanche, or is that it?
Well, I believe Susan Collins might hold out now that she knows her vote isn't needed.
Supposedly, Lisa Murkowski is.
Yeah, well, she's actually honest, but Susan Collins is not honest.
Right.
It's the same as with her Supreme Court votes. If Trump needs her vote, he gets it. And if not, knowing she's in a tough re-election race, he'll let her vote no, just so she can go home and say, see, I stand up to Trump. No, she doesn't.
What planet?
And by the way, I think she's fooling exactly 0 people.
Yeah. What planet am I living on? Earth. What planet are you living on? Because you obviously have no clue what's going on in this country if you think that the quote unquote American dream exists for the younger generation at all.
Also, Scott, isn't it funny how with any vote, it always seems to fall just one vote short, or one vote too many, or anything like that? It's always funny to me.
Yeah, it's always funny to me too. And in the end, Trump always gets what he wants, doesn't he? With very few exceptions.
Why is the manosphere frowned upon? Looks maxing is needed. Women's standards have increased. Looks maxing is not needed. Looks maxing is absolutely disgusting. Why is the manosphere frowned upon? Because because it's absolutely wretched. Like that, the manosphere is the reason that men get hated more and more and more. Looks maxing is disgusting.
Didn't the leader of the manosphere just get thrown in prison?
Probably.
I'm talking
He's
about
Tate.
the Tate brothers.
The Tate brothers, they're back in the news.
The manosphere has caused men to think that the way that things should happen in this country is things should go backwards, not forwards. Like things should go back to the quote unquote way they were, and are completely convincing men to believe the reality, which is women don't need men anymore. They don't need men anymore. There may be women out there that want what was considered a more traditional style marriage. That doesn't change the fact that women don't need men anymore. They don't need them for a job or a house or even a kid. Like they don't need them. They can literally do everything in their life that they want without a man, which means what it means to quote unquote be a man, what they need to work on to make themselves attractive, make a woman want to date them and marry them and have kids with them is different than what it used to be. And people, there aren't any men anymore. Look around. Okay. All right, dude.
You know, Mike Nunez says that looks maxing is the greatest thing that ever happened. I mean, greater than the invention of the wheel or Gutenberg's printing press
He
or
does think the
men
Tates are
landing
awesome.
on the moon. Wow, the greatest thing.
Scott, the wheel is overrated.
Yeah, I know.
There are over 20 million open jobs listed at departmentoflabor.gov. Okay. You obviously don't know how that all works, but thanks for playing. Literally,
Clavicular is sad. It's Vince.
Clavicular is so sad.
It's very sad because I don't know. He's like, he's depressed all the time. I think he overdosed in one of his last appearances, and he's just like spreading that to people. And I don't even think he necessarily means to be super toxic. It's just that like his presence is toxic.
Yep. Well, and the funny thing is the people that sit here and say that looks maxing is good and these people are good. I've been married for 20 years. I got a wonderful kid. I got a wonderful family. We didn't get married because my wife needed me for a job or anything.
Oh, you're such a bullshit artist. Look at that skin. He's got a skincare routine, folks. He's going to drop it on us and make a fortune.
You're laughing at that. The men of growing up today are not what you are wanting. What I am wanting? The men today are growing up being told by different men what it means to quote unquote be a man. You guys are telling them it means protecting women, which arguably is kind of dumb because men need to protect women against men, which they also are trying to say that men aren't the problem. But if men didn't exist, then women need protection from anybody. But anyways, and have a job and, have kids and all this other stuff, when again, women don't need men for that anymore. So why do you think, like, what do you have to give women now? So when you're saying there's no real men, the problem is what you guys think is a real man doesn't. That's you guys that think that. Like, that's you as men that are trying to tell other men what women want, when women are telling you that they don't want that or need that anymore. Like, you're not needed for that. The only reason that even existed was because when women had no rights, the only way, that's the issue. You're not fixing it. How do you think you're fixing it? By taking away women's rights? By taking away women's ability to do anything? Like, that's the only way you're going to quote unquote fix it in the world that your brain lives in right now.
Also, like, the men that Vince is talking about, like, either actively hate women or are disgusted by them.
Oh yeah.
Like, like they genuinely don't like women.
No, they consider them property.
Well, and they don't. Thanks for having me back up. I had to come back up. And they don't have an emotional intelligence within them to understand that the communication needs to be what the communication needs to be with their perspectives partners. And that's a huge thing that some people aren't getting, is that people who have stronger emotional intelligences try to communicate better with their partner, thus they have better relationships with their partner. And that's a huge part of why women, I always call it, women are closing up shop. They don't need to go on dates. They have their friends that they'll go and do stuff with. So
and yeah. Vince, the men of the manosphere wouldn't understand a woman if it was standing right in front of them. Like, they don't understand women. Most of them have never been in a real relationship in their entire life. They don't understand what it means to be in a relationship. They don't understand what it means to be a man in a relationship. They don't understand anything. The only thing they care about is how other men see them, which is hilarious, because the thing that frightens them the most is the idea of men being gay. And yet what they care about so much more than anything is how they are viewed by other men, which is why they like to attack men, which is why when men come out, they're like, first off, I am a woman. Men today are not men like men used to be. There is a difference in need and want. It doesn't matter that you're a woman. Men today, you're right, men today are not like men used to be. The way men used to be was absolutely wretched, horrible human beings in general to women. Even the good ones, in many ways, were pretty bad to women. And they shouldn't be what they were. It's a different world. And need and want is different. For want is always different for all women, and need is nothing. Bull, why is the host of see, this is what I'm talking about. You guys think I care that you think I'm feminine? I don't care. I've got a great wife who I love very much and have been married to for over 20 years. Don't give a rat's ass what you think about me. My wife loves me. We're doing great. Your insecurities mean nothing to me. See? This is wild. I love it when guys make my point.
Mike, didn't you know that having a wife is gay? Like, come on.
The thing is that just to put it on the flip side a little bit, there are women who would like more traditional roles in raising children and being around the house and taking care of the house, and thus but that doesn't mean, the thing that the guys don't understand is the emotional discussion, 50-50 partner that goes 75-25 at times and flip-flops, that is what needs to change. If you decide as a couple you want to have more of the traditional house roles, that morph a great example. I'm a great example. I had pretty traditional roles in the house when my children were little. And then that changed as we got old. But he'll tell you I'm a bull in a as you guys probably figured out, I'm a bull in a china shop. He's laid back. You know, I was the one that was moving and shaking and doing stuff like that. Even though I was doing the quote unquote traditional house roles. And so I think women need to understand that they need to communicate what that looks like too. And I don't think, if that's what they choose to do.
And Ava, what do I think women want feminine men? Well, I have two answers to that. One, I think the idea of what is masculine and feminine is a social construct that we as society just made up, which is exactly what it is. There's no like official thing that makes someone feminine or masculine. That being said, what do women want in 2026? They want an emotionally mature man. They want a man who has empathy and humanity and cares about people and cares about them and wants to be in a relationship for something other than friggin', you know, schmecks and babies.
Also, Vince says that you don't know because you're out of the dating game, Mike.
Mm.
I am curious. Hey, Vince, you're so integrated in the manosphere. How many dates have you gone on in the last week? I just need to know because you obviously know.
And I have a daughter who's in the dating pool. So it's not, and I've talked to plenty of people that are in the dating pool. I've talked to plenty of women that have said exactly what they want. We do care. Disagree that you do care. Disagree that you do care.
Only two, Vince? That doesn't seem like enough. I need you to up those numbers for me, dude.
Women choose feminine men because, again, your opinion on what is feminine is just your opinion. Like, you are the one who's trying to make it black and white when it comes to feminine and masculine. What I'm telling you is those boxes are just your feelings. They don't actually mean anything.
Well, and it's about
have,
partnership, right? It's about partnership. It's about having a partner. And if you have strengths that you can bring to the relationship, regardless of whether the male female constraints are, is to mesh within that partnership together.
mm-hmm.
By the way, Luke in chat said, how many jobs were lost due to Biden's open borders? Well, let's look at the numbers, Luke. Biden added 2.23 million jobs in his last year. Trump is at about flat job growth throughout his entire term. Flat. 2.23 million, flat.
Well, I look at you and you have been married for 20 years. You possess zero femininity. Actually, if you look at the stuff that I enjoy doing and the way I interact, a lot of manosphere men would call me very feminine. Like, that's what I'm saying. Every person's, this is why, again, we need to stop using these dumbass words that mean nothing. You just use it as descriptions. I cry. I love to sew. I love to paint. I love to sing. I love to dance. But I also like to play sports. I also like to work out when I can. I was a stay-at-home dad. Those aren't feminine. To masculine men, they are quite feminine.
Mike, I'm going to need you to go rip 500-pound squats right after this live.
Okay. Did you get bullied? Yeah, because I wore glasses as a kid. I got bullied all the time. But I also fought back sometimes.
You know, and people keep talking about control. The big thing is that control should not be in a relationship. It should not be in the dynamics of a relationship. Whether the woman is going to control quote unquote feminine men, or the men are going to control women in a manosphere. That's the problem, is that we need to remove the control out of the equation for some of those people.
Okay, I'm going to respond to this guy, and then I'm going to block you because your name is really disgusting. But I didn't admit a distinction between masculine and feminine. I talked about things that a lot of men in society would consider feminine. I don't consider them feminine at all. Losers do block and mute as expected. Okay. Well, good thing I don't care what you think about me. Again, the idea that you guys think I care what you think about me, because you care what men think about you. That's all you care about. Men that work out don't care what women, they aren't doing it for women. They're doing it for other men. The men that look smacks, they aren't doing it for women. They're doing it for men. We're in a mass depopulation and the government's doing it, but none of you care. What?
Huh?
Now he has extra time to throw rocks and spit. Exactly, Jamie. Yes, it's really wild for men that are downright terrified at being, not even being gay, being accused of being gay. If they actually considered and thought about what they were doing, they would realize how much looks maxing is what men have left because women can replace us in all other aspects. What?
Then be better.
Like, no, it's not that they can replace you in all other. Just like with anything else, you have to bring something to the table now. If you think all we've got now is our looks, then what's, like, that's really sad that you think that.
Not only that, I mean, let's see. The only thing is that we need to bring destructive behavior, self-destructive behavior is the only thing that we can bring to a relationship. Make that make sense.
You can't make it make sense because it isn't. Women are born with value. Men have to create their value. Everyone has to create their value. Women aren't born with value. No more than men are. Women have value, just like men have value. Again, that's the manosphere telling you that we have to create our value. No. See, you say by getting money and looks maxing. No, that's not where your value comes from. That's what you're told your value comes from, but it's not. Your value comes just like with anything. What you bring to society, to the people around you, to your community. Like, you don't need, it's not all about money. Are you saying they're lying to you? Yes. Yes, I am saying they're lying to you. I'm saying they're lying to you through your teeth to get your attention and your money and your support, and that is all they care about. There's a manosphere guy in Europe. I don't know if he's still going. There was the interview that happened on the manosphere that was on Netflix. This guy screamed and was totally against people being on OF. Called them some of the worst names around. And yet, he owned a business whose job it was to hire women and help them be OF people. And you want to listen to what this guy thinks is right? No, it's not Tate. He's a British guy. I don't remember his name. If you haven't watched the video on Netflix about the manosphere, you really should. It will disgust you, but also it will kind of open your eyes to what, like, if you just heard the manosphere but you didn't understand the manosphere, it's what are OF people? That's a word I cannot use. People that remove clothing and do other things on the internet for money. I think it's called Into the Manosphere. But I think Andrew Tate is a scum. But it's not truth, Vince. That's what I'm telling you. You think it sounds true because it feels right. It feels very black and white. It's a black and white. This, like, this is what it means to be a man. X, Y, Z. That's what it means. What I'm telling you is they're wrong. That's not what it means to be a man. That's not where your value comes from. Your value doesn't come from how much money you make or how many kids you have or anything, all of that stuff. You can have so much value to society, to your community, to the people around you, to your loved ones. That doesn't involve how much money you make. That doesn't involve how much, how many kids you have. You can do so much for the kids in your community. You could be an adopted relative to all the kids in your community and never have kids and bring value.
People need to stop.
Goodbye.
People need to stop. It's not money. It's not having kids. It's not the genitalia that you were born with that provides what value you bring. It's what positive impacts do you bring to your family and your community and your society. That is where value should come from.
Like, okay. What do you as a man bring to a relationship without what what was considered traditional? Let's just look at it. What can you bring? Well, you can bring friendship, caring, support, love, understanding. Like, that is something.
Communication.
Men are not the providers and protectors anymore. Men are the danger. If they aren't men. Oh my gosh. Dude. That is a sad life that you've got. If that's what you believe that is all you're good for. I'm sorry. That is really sad. I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you. That you think your only purpose is making money and protecting women against yourself. That's sad. That's horrible. Why would you want to live in a world like that? And Vince, I'm going to be straight with you. The problem with social media is it's social media. You are sitting in an algorithm. Oh no, it's actually very sad. Is you are seeing a lot. The algorithm by its very nature continues to show you the same thing again and again and again. Why do men get cover charge but not women? So here's the thing about society as a whole. A lot of companies, a lot of businesses, a lot of everything do things based on what they think are going to make them money. I'm sad. You'll never crawl out of that room and make anything of yourself. And wow, that means I'm going to have to leave the house that I own and the 2 cars that I have and the wife of 20 years and the 19-year-old daughter who's going to college. Man, I really haven't made anything of myself. Oof. My life. I don't know what I will do. I don't know what I'll do.
You know, the guy that sits there and say that this is natural. This is natural. Okay. Which I always look at, this is nature. Well, who is taking care of the lion cubs when the mamas go out to hunt? The dads are. The dads are. So, I always, the male penguins are the ones sitting on the egg. There's so much we see in nature to show that it is more of a communal living with strong female architects in that system.
Could you at least acknowledge women use men for specific roles, like one is for schmecks or food delivery? Again, this is the problem when you put anybody in a box, because there is no box that you can straight up put any man or woman into. Are there men that have been that look at women certain ways? Are there women that look at men for certain things in certain ways? Yes, that does not mean it's all of them. It's the fact that you are putting things into a box that is limiting your ability to interact with women in the way that you need to. Do I agree with OF? It's not an agree or disagree. Do I agree with it? Do I partake in it? No. Do I fault women for using it to survive? Also, no. Would I tell another woman, how they can survive? I think if you want to make OF not something that is necessary for the survival of women, then I would suggest looking at the men that use it and pay for the use of it. Some of them enjoy doing it, and that's the other reason I wouldn't ever say it, because again, it's not my place. It's not an agree or disagree. There's the reason these people exist, the reason these services exist is because people use them and spend their money on them.
My thing is that I don't want anybody who's on those platforms to be exploited. That's kind of my
that's an
thing
internet
on-
problem. But yes.
I know, but I'm talking about for that particular type of thing is that somebody is not I don't care as long as somebody's not being exploited. That's kind of my feeling on it. If you're being exploited and it's being harmful and things of that nature to that person,
Sure.
being coerced,
Sure.
then that's a totally different issue.
Sure.
But
And I think
that's it.
that what comes in for that is we as a society need to do better with people's mental health, because when mental health is bad, it becomes very easy to do things like get addicted to what OF provides and other things. So many OF models are LARPing as Christians, and conservatives are fundamentally against that. Vince, I would argue that so many people that call themselves Christians are also LARPing as Christians that are conservative. So many conservatives are LARPing as Christians and don't walk the walk. So while I hear you and I understand you're being against it, that's fine. You have the right to be against it. Don't use it. I don't think that's the right direction to go with it. If you are Christian in name alone, you aren't Christian. But there's the problem with all of that is who gets to decide, really? Like my opinion that someone is or isn't a Christian doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, I can't control it. I can sit here and tell anyone that they're not a Christian all I want. If they say they're a Christian, what else? What am I going to do? What, like, it's not there's no law, nor should there be. It's how you act. All how you act. And you either support it or you don't support it. When it comes to this whole, masculinity, femininity, all that other stuff, it just doesn't stop. Just stop worrying about it. Just be who you are. Be a good person.
Going back to those concerts, back to education, just very, very quickly circling around. I had to take home ec a lot because I moved between schools a lot. So a lot of times that was the only elective that was open by the time I got to that school. But I found that a lot of the people that liked science loved nutrition and cooking classes because of how everything, all the different vitamins interact with each other and in the body and things like that. So, people need to just stop. I mean, I always tell people, I taught my girls how to change tires and I taught my boys how to cook. They all learned all of it. But, that's just the way they were in my household.
Roll Tide Girl, what am I focusing on that we disagree on? What am I focusing on that we disagree on? I'm talking about what's going on in the world. So you want to focus on something positive? What positive do you want me to focus on? What positive is going on? I haven't seen any positive going on. Trust me. If there were positives going on, I would talk about them. Don't see many positives going on. You're alive and well, that's pretty positive. Well, I appreciate that. But that's not something I can talk about for 2.5 hours. You woke up. That's something to be grateful for. But you know what? There are a lot of people in this country that don't feel grateful to wake up because they are suffering every day because of choices that this administration and the voters in it have made. So while I can be grateful that I woke up, I'm also going to stand up for the people that are suffering. but a 20-year-old attractive can be on a yacht with a celebrity just for being attractive. Okay. Why is that a goal of yours? My goal is to have a family that I love and make enough money to pay our bills. I don't need a yacht. That's what I mean. You're always negative. You find negative. No, I don't find it. There just is. It's not a finding thing. Women just have to look pretty, but men need a job. No, they don't. I mean, you need a job to survive. You don't need a job to get women. Your job, having a job does show a woman that you are looking to date, that you actually like maybe have goals in life or like care, but they're not looking for you just because of your job. And I didn't go to the gym a ton, and I still got someone who's amazing. I know, I did. Why does
Well, and not only that, people also, I think, attribute hard conversations as negative conversations too. And it can be a hard conversation, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. It just means that it's a difficult process to go through. And so I hate people saying, well, it's negative. I mean, you're talking to classic chronic depression, bipolar to person, you know. But that's why I always say hard conversations are different from negative conversations.
And Vince, women don't search for attractive traits. They search for traits that they find attractive. Not every woman finds the same thing attractive. And they don't want financial security for themselves. They want you to have financial security so you are not a burden on them and their lives. And Roll Tide girl, what did you say? What division in the country concerns me greatly? The fact that there are literally tens of millions of people that are actively against marginalized communities in this country. That there are human beings that are suffering under the choices made by this administration. Millions and millions. You can work your ass off, but she nags when doing dishes and see, Vince, you are projecting other people's statements. I can tell you, as someone who has been married for 20 years, what you are thinking is life is not. What you are thinking happens is not. Again, are there some experiences where it happens? Sure, but that is not. Twisting the view of conservatives with that statement, I have yet to see in life the people in charge and the people who voted for the people in charge make me think otherwise. So I'm not twisting the view of conservatives. I'm looking at the actions of conservatives. The people in charge right now are making laws, are saying rhetoric that are endangering marginalized communities in this country. And the people that voted for it in general voted with the knowledge that some of these things would happen. And I'm against that. And none of this is new. They've been trying to do this since his first administration. So yeah, if you are someone who voted for him 3 times, yeah, what am I supposed to think? That you care more about your taxes than human life? Because that's what that vote means to someone like me. And I see it all the time. I see people coming in when I say that healthcare should be a human right, and people are saying, no, it shouldn't, which basically means if you don't get a job, and even if you, and get a job that can afford the health insurance that you need to survive, that you might as well not be alive anymore. What a horrible thing to say. What about conservatives? That's my experience. How do you think? I have yet to see otherwise. Does that mean all conservatives? No, there's a conservative in here right now that I know, someone who considers himself a Republican, who by his statements, at least, from everything I've seen, does not think that way. I don't know who he voted for. Just because he calls himself a Republican doesn't mean he voted for Trump every time. But that being said, what I see are the people put in leadership. And if you're willing to put someone in leadership who's willing to do that, then how am I supposed to think otherwise? How would that work? Who would pay the nurses and doctors, the health insurance, the single payer health insurance plan? They would get paid the exact same way. It just wouldn't be a private company.
You could basically just say that we would pay for them.
Yeah. The same way we're already paying for them.
I do think that it would be pretty neat for nurses and doctors to be state and federal employees.
We just need to put more work into, we need to put more work and money into having more. Very sad that you think every conservative cares more about taxes than life. Do I believe that literally everyone who considers themselves a conservative believes that? No. Do I think the ones that are the most active and the most involved think that? Yeah. Yeah. And why do I think that? Because of their actions, because of their choices. You voted for a guy who literally was found guilty of SA, was found liable of SA, of grape. What am I supposed to think?
Ultimately, like, conservatives are just going to be in, very much in lockstep with the values that their representatives put forth.
I think it's sad that you would vote for people like you do. Like, you think it's sad that I think that every conservative cares? I think it's sad that you would put someone in office who literally put people in office who literally lack humanity. I want to take out cartels. I would rather do things in this country that make it so people aren't so depressed that they feel the need to take the stuff that cartels provide in the first place. If there is no market, there is no existence of them. Yes, I would rather marginalized communities be able to live without fear. I care way more about that than a tax return. And again, is it sad? I agree with you on that, Roll Tide Girl. It's sad. It's sad that what we are dealing with is that reality. It's absolutely sad. And again, Mick Bizzle, I can understand the perspective from a very high point. But to say that you did not trust Kamala when the other option was Donald Trump is the most insane statement you can possibly make. And I do not understand how you can connect those two. This man was found guilty of 34 federal crimes. This man was found liable of rape. This man has a history of grifting and abuse. This man lied 34,000 times during his first term. This man actively did things that caused everyone's health care to go up, whether you're willing to accept it or not. No, the charges have not been expunged. The fact that you even think that, no, the law was not weaponized against him. He broke the fucking law. Do you hear yourself? You are literally not willing to take the fact that he was found guilty in a court of law, not by a judge, not by a lawyer, by a jury of his peers, complete unanimous on all 34 counts. And this, Roll Tide Girl, is exactly why I keep talking about what I talk. You want us to talk about good things when you will not hold a man responsible for breaking the law just because, I don't know, just because. It's disgusting. It's literally the most disgusting thing I can think of. No, it's not true. That's the point. It's not true. You want it to be true because the man says things that you like. But there is literally not one bit of truth in it.
They want it to be true because if it wasn't true, if Trump is a felon and a rapist, it speaks to them. That's why they want it to be true.
And Biden never broke the law in your eyes. Clinton never did. What do you think he did that broke the law, that he was found guilty on? Not just what media or somebody tells you. He actually was found guilty of doing. No, you don't wish it wasn't true because it is true.
Hey, Mike, remember when Roll Tide Girls said that it wasn't all conservatives?
Yeah. What Clinton did, while disgusting, did not break the law. It was unethical. He lied in front of Congress and he was impeached for it.
Impeached for lying. Let that sink in, people. He was impeached for lying basically on one certain subject, not on 34,000 subjects.
Clinton is lustful. That's not illegal. Gross.
For the record, he lied under oath. That's why he was impeached.
Also, can we just clear the room a bit? Like, it's not that we like Clinton.
No.
It's like I don't worship, Bill Clinton, Obama, or Joe Biden or anybody. I really don't.
If they were found guilty, again, it's not that I think anybody is innocent. But when you're unwilling to actually accept that this person broke the law and was found guilty and still decided to put him in one of the most powerful positions on the planet with his hands on the nuclear arsenal, you lose all credibility.
Mike, the reason that they come up with weaponization or all these other catchphrases, which are patently ridiculous, because as you pointed out, he was found guilty by a jury. He wasn't found guilty by a Department of Justice. The reason that they do that is because they don't want to face the implications of their own morality for justifying the unjustifiable. They don't want to face that. So they come up with straw horse arguments that it was weaponized or some other nonsense because they don't want to face who they actually are for supporting this man.
Also, they absolutely love the weaponization of things like the DOJ or the law. They want to use it against their political opponents every single time.
Precisely. They couldn't care less about weaponization as long as it's aimed at Democrats.
He's a freaking pedo. And you guys won't accept it. He was best friends with the worst, one of the worst human beings on the ever-loving planet. And now y'all are thinking, oh, well, we don't need to release the files. We need to stop talking about it.
When all throughout the 2024 campaign, that's all they could talk about. Release the files, release the files, release the files. Then Trump says, well, I don't want to release the files. Oh, yeah, don't release them. Old news.
Acting like Biden administration didn't attack TPUSA? What?
Also, Trump was in the e-files over 1 million times. Like, it's just wild.
Again, they keep changing the goalposts because they don't want to be put in a position of ever trying to defend Trump because what he's done is indefensible.
And no, Clinton and Epstein were not best friends, but I don't care. If Clinton is guilty of something, put him in friggin' jail. I don't care about the letter next to your fucking name. I want people to be held responsible for their choices. You either are against being a pedo or you are for it. You're against being a felon or you are for it. If you make excuses for people that do it, you are as bad as that person. You're either against rapists or you are for it. No, I'm not going another 5 hours. I have to actually go do stuff today, but that I put off doing yesterday because I went 5 hours.
Well, at any rate, Mike, I have to drop down. I have to be somewhere. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Cody, good seeing you. Clara, good seeing you. And chat, thank you so much. You're the ones who make it all worthwhile.
Roll Tide Girl, I have allowed you to be in here for a long time. And I know you can't see any of this anymore because you no longer can see this. But that statement, after everything I've said, makes you one of the most despicable people I have ever met in my entire life. Saying you feel sorry for me because I think everyone who is a pedo should go to jail, or everyone who is a rapist should go to prison, or everyone who is found guilty of being a felon should be held responsible, is disgusting. I know, Shug. I want to say it out loud for anyone that saw the thing.
And not only that, it goes back to fundamentals, doesn't it? I mean, it goes back to fundamentals. There are people that, there are certain things that happen that can have some nuance to it, but hurting somebody physically, sexually, emotionally, physically, financially, all of those things should be a black and white issue. Black and white. If it's going to hurt somebody else, it should be black and white. That's how I kind of live my life.
Mick Bizzle, if you are going to ask me if my choice to vote between someone who's friends with a grapist or is actually a grapist, between those two, no, it doesn't matter. Because let's be honest, in this day and age, when 1 in 4 women have been SA'd, there's a good chance that all of us are friends with one at this point and don't realize it. But if you're asking me if I'm going to choose between someone who by everything that is forth is one of the most qualified people to ever be president ever, and the thing that most people have against her is her laugh, compared to a guy who is a pedo and a grapist and a felon, yeah, there's no difference. There's no question. Is Kamala Harris perfect? Would she have been my first choice, depending on who we're talking about she went up against? See, the fact that you're saying that means you don't actually care about people. You are part of the problem, Mick Bizzle. And I don't know how to get that past you. You're sitting here saying you would have voted Dem if it wasn't Kamala, but your other choice was a grapist, a pedo, and a felon. Literally nothing. There is, unless you're talking the exact same, nothing that came out about Kamala Harris could even be a smidge of a comparison to make her worse than Donald Trump. And I don't know why you cannot understand that and hear that. Like, listen to yourself. I want you to sit and process that statement. Every argument that you have against Kamala Harris has nothing to do, is not herself. And you're trying to tell me that she would have been worse than a grapist, a pedo, a felon, a grifter, a liar. Yeah, Shug. Okay. What's up, Shug?
No, this is the thing, man. This is the thing that boggles the mind to me. It's not the fact that people elected him. It's the fact that he's never, and I do say never, been a great adult. And everybody has just ignored it. He's never evidenced himself to be a good person. So to me, for all of the values that whoever it is, I'm not even going to aim it at one side, that whoever claims to hold, if he was already bankrupting or frauding American people, not paying people, just when he was in business, what made people think he was going to be able to take care of people in office?
McBizzle, you say you're being honest with yourself, but you're not being honest with anybody around you. Vivek is equally as bad. Vivek is just a elite piece of shit too. And no, Kara, she was not all of the above except a rapist. Literally not. Literally not even a little bit. And the fact that you're even saying that shows that you, again, don't actually care. And it doesn't matter if you think Vivek would have been better. It matters who you voted for in the end. You had two choices. And you chose to vote for the pedo and rapist and liar and felon. No, you voted for a rapist and a pedo and a felon. And you voted for the movement that would lift up a man like that. I need you to understand this. You did not vote for a conservative movement. Nothing of what they are doing in this country is even a smidge conservative. He did do it. He did do that. He was found guilty of it. Oh. And you're Canadian. So, what? Anyways, all right, guys, I'm getting off. Guys, I hope you have an amazing weekend. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the gifts everywhere. I appreciate all on all the different platforms. If you haven't watched the videos of the people that are running for office over on the tube or just the normal videos, please go and watch them. It helps me do what I do, which is trying to make a page that, trying to make a podcast that, you know, has hard conversations and tries to break the status quo. And I cannot do that without you, especially in 2026. Your support, your sharing, your watching, you're telling your friends that they should watch. Those are the kind of things that help and make it possible for me to keep doing what I'm doing. So please, 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 any help would be immensely, immensely grateful. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. I'll see you on Monday. You guys are amazing, just the way we are. And I love you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to sing, laugh, dance, smile. Do something that makes you happy. Bye, guys.